Hello, 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 all, and welcome to Morning Flame, where every time you get a new nugget from God, it's like a new flame kindles in your heart. And I am just so blessed to be here with you all today. My name is Andrea, and as you can see, I've got these new little headphones on. My husband taught me how to use the studio a little bit down here. I'm not too savvy with it, but I got it on, and I have a video up and running. So I hope my sound is better and the picture quality is better. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to my hubby. I appreciate you, love. Okay, so today's topic is just pretty much an add on from the last session that we had where we discussed forgiveness. Afterwards, I was just thinking and I thought, man, we never really touched in depth on boundaries and forgiveness. And I think it's so important to understand that while forgiveness is not optional, forgiveness is a must in order for us to be able to heal, to move forward in life without bitterness, resentment, anger, all of those things that even if you say, I'm indifferent, it doesn't matter, that person doesn't matter. If you harbor any unforgiveness, it truly is affecting how you function in life. You're not functioning to your highest ability, even if you're the CEO of a company right now. There is something lacking that you may not even be aware of or understand because of harboring any ounce of unforgiveness in your heart. And the truest way that we can eradicate ourselves from all unforgiveness is by accepting the forgiveness that Christ gives us, and then he teaches us how to give that same forgiveness to others. Okay, so now today we're jumping into forgiveness and boundaries. So this is where we need to understand that forgiveness and boundaries go hand in hand. Just because you forgive somebody or forgive a situation or even forgive yourself means that somebody may not occupy the same space. That situation may not be a situation that you never allow to occur again because you function different, the way that your actions become different. And you forgiving yourself for a situation, but it doesn't mean that you may go into that same space that maybe you have once held. And those can be very difficult for a person to understand, cope with, or deal with. So it's like, I guess with boundaries, you have to understand that you don't, when you forgive someone, we'll go with that one first. You want to make sure that if they're a person who continues to extract from you, it's a situation that continues to draw from who you are. There's one verse that I love that it says, the blessing of the Lord bringeth peace, and he adds no sorrow with it. If it's a person, place, or situation that just continues to extract and take from you, that person may not ever be able to occupy that same space again for your healing. And we'll read that verse later that discusses how when you confess or when you pray for people, and it's all part of your healing. So I think it's so important to know that they might not occupy that space anymore. And sometimes we become enablers because we want a person to change, or we have fixated in our mind that in order for me to forgive someone fully, I need to allow them to again occupy this space and give them a chance to prove to me that they will do better, or that since they've asked for forgiveness, or I've forgiven them, so I can turn a blind eye to it, and that's the righteous thing to do, and that's the right thing to do. It may not be so. This is why prayer is so important, and building a relationship with God is so important, because you don't want to just forgive someone, continue to allow them to occupy the space, and then you're on this monotonous wheel, this hamster wheel of they continue to function in the same behaviors, and you continue to think that you're forgiving them when in actuality you're enabling that person or that situation. It might be even a family member, which can be very difficult. Some people cannot allow their parents to occupy the same spaces that they've had because of some conflict that they continue to come into that just takes away from their soul. It takes away from who they are as a person, and they go around that person, they become agitated, internally agitated. So it's important to understand that forgiveness does not mean that that person can stay in that same place or space. And it's also important to know that while forgiveness doesn't mean it's not just a person, you may need to leave a job. You may need to not go to someone's house and not partake in a certain situation or a certain action that you've normally done because some situation has come and you just realize it doesn't work for you. It's causing you bitterness, strife, resentment, frustration. So I don't know what it is or what it could be for you, but it's so important to understand, do not become an enabler. Do not think that forgiveness means that that person needs to occupy the same space. And unfortunately, if you're the person who has made the offense, don't think that the other person, the only way that they forgive you is if they allow you to return to that place and space where you were once in their life. That is not true either. In order for them to receive the fullness of their healing, they may need to put you on a timeout. They may need to separate themselves from you forever. And you're going to have to heal from that yourself and look at how your actions and just learn and grow to do better in the future with someone else. So it's a difficult, boundaries can be difficult because sometimes we think people need to open their boundaries or we keep our boundaries open. So like I said, if it's someone who you need to close and create tighter boundaries with them and maybe remove them from the space that they occupy, that can be difficult. And if you're the one being pushed out and you're being made a boundary, you're going to have to deal with that too. But with God, you can do anything. You can know that no matter what happens, nothing shocks God. He knew it, and everything is for our growth. So I just want to leave you with that and understanding that boundaries are so important to maintain, and do not allow people to walk all over you and dictate to you what forgiveness should look like. Forgiveness may look like healthy boundaries that you have to stick with in order for you both to be able to move into healing. And sometimes that initial conflict of like, well, you don't really forgive me then, or this or that, it might go up and down, but it's really important. So the two verses that I want to leave with you, one is saying, it's just understanding again the importance and the non-optional position of forgiveness. It comes from Mark 11. Mark 11, this is what Christ is saying. These are his words in particular. It's Mark 11. Sorry, I need my glasses. I'm trying to see without them, and I'm forgetting that I actually need these guys. Okay, there we go. So Jesus says, therefore I say unto you, here we go. Sorry, moving down to verse 25, Mark 11:25. And when you stand praying, forgive, if you have aught against any, that your Father also which is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses. Here's the kicker. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Father which is in heaven forgive your trespasses. So that's how important it is to forgive. Forgiveness, like I said, is not optional, but forgiveness does include healthy boundaries that you may need to create with people in your life, that people may need to create with you in their life. Don't think they haven't forgiven you. Just understand that they may need to put you in a boundary, or you may need to make boundaries with certain things that you may have done before, but I can't do that anymore. It's not good for my soul. Pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to how your body reacts and responds to people, places, things, situations, and just become in tune with you. My thing, people always talk about self-care. I always say self-care starts with becoming self-aware, aware of how you function with people, aware of how your relationships are with people, understanding how your body is functioning in certain situations. I think that's a huge part of self-care. One day we'll talk about that. But and the last verse I want to give you, this verse is more specifically for people who have already established a relationship with God, but nonetheless, that's what you're on the path to, right? So either you're on the path or you're already there. So it's James 5:16. Confess your faults one to another. Don't hold back. Don't try to be sneaky. Everything that happens in the dark comes to light. It's in Luke somewhere. It's so funny because I was at work and someone said something and I quoted a verse and he got me. He said, well, where's that verse at? And it was that one about things happening in the dark and they come into the light. And I said, man, I know a lot of verses. Don't ask me where they come from. That I don't know. So I'm going to learn more about where they come from in the Bible. That's my goal. So here we go. Back to this verse in James 5:16. Confess your faults one to another and pray for one another that you may be healed. You want healing? Be a person to be honest, be truthful. Pray for people who hurt you. Pray for the situations that you're facing. Pray for forgiveness to come into your heart. Pray for the person who you're having trouble forgiving. Pray for yourself if you're having trouble forgiving yourself. God will make it so that when you start to function in this capacity to say, okay, I will no longer walk in bitterness, resentment, indifference, God will make it so that you'll be healed. And that newness that you'll feel, you know what I say? People always say, you don't know a good thing till it's gone. I say, you don't know what you were missing until you have it. You don't know a good thing till you have it. Sometimes you don't know, like, wow, I took so long to get to this place because of my wrong perspectives on God, my wrong perspectives on what it would be like to start to establish a relationship with God. Life would get boring. I know me, I went through a phase. You could ask my friends. I mean, I went into shutdown mode. I became so religious that it was like, I look back and I think, wow, I was suffocating. And I actually became more depressed when I became so overly religious and didn't understand it was a relationship. So get into a relationship with God, receive his forgiveness. It'll make it that much easier to forgive others, and know that forgiveness does come with boundaries in certain instances. You don't have to let a person occupy the same space. You do not have to let a situation occupy the same space. And if you're the one who needed forgiveness, unfortunately, but know that God, you may not occupy the same space that you had once before in a person's life. But just know that if you're striving and if you're seeking to build your relationship with God, he has your back. So you don't have to worry about, my life is over now. I've cheated on my wife or cheated on my husband, and now they're no longer going to be with me and my life is over. No, God understands. He knows that we're fallible humans, and he has a plan for every single person. So all you have to do is come to him today as you are. You don't have to wait until you get your life together. You don't have to wait until things get better, until you have more time. No, drop to your knees and talk to the Lord. I was going to say, drop to your knees and say, Lord, help me, please. So you just really have to take God for who he is and what he is. He is your creator. He is your manufacturer. If there's a glitch in your mind, your life, your soul, he is the one who will fix it. So that's who you go to. So don't think that if you're the person who's being put into boundaries or this situation that you're just having trouble overcoming and forgiving, don't think it's the end of the world. Just take it day by day, step at a time with God. Just start off. You don't have to have some fancy prayer. You don't have to have Bible verses. Just, God, help me to see how you see. God, help me to forgive how you want me to forgive. Help me to want your forgiveness. It's not naturally in us to forgive people. It's a gift from God. We are not good-natured in general. We have to receive that from God. We all have a measure in us, but to get the fullness, we need God's help. So, well, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you received a blessing from today's word. I pray that God gives you the gift of forgiveness, that you might forgive those who may have wrongfully hurt you, and that even more so that you, in your healing, that you'll just see the beauty of a relationship with God. God bless you all. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time on Morning Flame.